Welcome to DC Talk Radio 90.9 FM, where your issue is of concern, and you are on Sivaka with Shasho, your host. Now, we usually always have great creatives, and for the longest time, one of the big questions that comes in is, can you do whatever your heart desires? Well, just to answer that question today, we have Cholwe, who is the director and co-founder of Gematrix. And what Gematrix does is it helps people, talented at playing video games, to compete and win money. So some people are actually using this as a way to earn a living. And yes, this is happening right here in Zambia. So for all you parents out there who tell your kids you can't play video games, or you stop your kids from being interactive and just doing what their heart desires, well, this is just one way to show you that the world has really changed, and the different ways for you to make a living are only limited by our minds. Cholwe, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I think one of the things that most people are going to be curious with, just to start from, is what gave you guys the audacity to decide that you're going to start managing talent when it comes to the aspect of video games?
Like you said in the beginning, it's all about passion. So my co-founder and I, Musole Prince, we both have this avid passion for video games, and we've been playing games since we were young, since we were kids. In around 2015, we had our first experience at a community event hosted by Ned Otaku, and that opened our mindset to the possibilities of actually playing competitively with friends and other people from other towns. And it grew on, and when we wanted to make a sustainable business, the team came up to us as an idea, because we could now fish out talent and nurture it and find ways in which we would give those players a platform to make money and grow better as players.
So I do remember, though, because there was a time where everybody in Lusaka, and I think just even surrounding Zambia, were doing FIFA tournaments, pay 100 kwacha, grand prize 10,000 kwacha. Is that also where you thought this could actually be pretty lucrative for people?
Sorry, excuse me. Not necessarily, but that was a key factor, in the sense that it showed us that the market is actually active. We have people who are actually going out there, hosting tournaments and attending those tournaments. Prince and I usually would go in Kabwata, Matero, in these Chilenje, in these areas, and look at game centers. Obviously, we will not tell people we're going to look around game centers, but would look around and see how active it is. Even when we were young, people still used to do that. Mm-hmm. But what really brought it out to us was when we looked at the diaspora, like around what's happening in Southern Africa, what's happening in Europe, what's happening in North America. And we start seeing this activity where players are doing this professionally, some part-time and some full-time, and people are earning money, a salary, $5,000 per month, or winning a grand prize of $30 million like the other month with a Fortnite player. So that really clicked to us to say, why can't we see a Zambian player on a big stage internationally representing us and standing a chance to win something like that? So that's really what jolted us to do all this.
Wow. Okay. So what were some of the first things that I guess you had to do to ensure you could start taking part in this actively?
First of all, the first thing and foremost was, okay, fine. How do we find talent? That was the primary thing, find the talent. So we went to Bongo Hive, and they helped us host an event. So we hosted an event, and a couple of players showed up from around not Africa, from around Zambia, of course, Central Province, Lusaka, and Southern Province. So when those players came through for a tournament, we fished out the best players, and we had a conversation with them, and we started from there. The next step was making us a registered business. So we had to go to PACRA, we had to go to ZRA, we had to make our paperwork, right? And from then on, we're like, okay, fine, we have that in place. What's our business plan? What's our strategy? We have the players. We can run as a professional business. What models can we use to make sure we are sustainable to actually achieve our dream? So those were the steps we had to put into place to take through this.
Wow. Okay. So now you found the talent. When you say talent, because I think video games are pretty expansive, like the number and types of video games available are enormous. What exactly were you looking for in your talent? Specific video games, maybe specific skills they have. What were you fishing for?
So really, what we were fishing for was a low barrier to entry. So eSports, much like electronic sports, which is what we're in, much like traditional sports, have different genres and categories. You have badminton, but you also have tennis. They're similar, but they're not the same. So we have shooting games, we have fighting games, we have battle royale. That's like shooting games, but not really Call of Duty. So you have those similarities in games. So our low barrier to entry for us in Zambia primarily was console gaming. So we had to look at what do Zambians mostly play. If I go to Matero, if I go to Challenge, if I go to any place, even if I go to a primary school, not a government school, but a primary school, what are the kids playing from those schools? We'll find that, okay, it's console games. What games? Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, Tekken, FIFA, So then we're like, okay, fine. What games can we execute? And that's how we chose FIFA and Mortal Kombat. Because that's what we chose. Okay, we can do this. We can start from here. We could have gone through PC gaming, but it involved a lot of capital. And when you're starting, you have to really think, okay, low cost, high return. So we're like, okay, let's go for the console gaming, and then eventually maybe we'll progress to other games.
Now, you called this like any other sport. So, with other sports, you have days where today they're in the gym, they're training, you're overseeing them. Is it the same with you guys?
Yeah, so that's how it is. So for the beauty of electronic sports is you can play online. So we don't necessarily always have to be on the players' toes, although we can review their work. So what happens is usually when they're doing off-site training, they do send us digital copies of their training sessions, and we review them as a team later on and look at their mistakes. We study our opponents. Sometimes we do have on-site training at Bongo Hive. So Bongo Hive helps us with a room where we have access to liquid internet there. And it's high speed. It's great for us for our training sessions. So we get to train, and we actually look at how they're progressing from time to time, after a tournament and before a tournament.
Okay. Firstly, I'm going to say that's one of the difficult aspects of any sport, is to ensure that your guys are playing all the time. Now, just a bit away from the creative aspect, because this whole thing is really creative in itself. You guys have created this niche, because everybody does tournaments, and then there are great players that come off from there, but then nobody capitalizes on investing in the players, the talent. But which you guys have clearly done here. So, what are some of the things that, as a business entity, you guys have found to be a bit of a hassle, especially considering that your niche is video games? What are some of the things that you can point to and say, this made it a bit difficult?
One of the things that made it a bit difficult was in the beginning was capital, to actually kickstart things. We had this mindset when we were starting to say we'll probably get, like a bunch of sponsors, and these sponsors will actually help us execute our target goals. But as we kept going, we found that wasn't always possible, because most people will talk to us and this sounds great, but okay, we'll think about it, the normal Zambian way, I guess. So we had to adapt to that, and we sat down and were like, okay, fine, do we want this? How badly do we want this? And we talk to our players, how badly do you want to fight for this, you know? So we're like, okay, fine, we all want this dream, let's fight for it, let's do what we can to achieve our goals. And from then on, all we've been doing is working with what we have, and we haven't really forced it with actively looking for sponsors. We believe that as we gain our traction, as we move forward, the right partners will see the value in us and will portray the proper value for them as well. So that was mainly one of the big problems as we were starting. Then after that, it was more of a slap in the face to say, okay, you know, you're in Zambia. You're the only team. At that point, we're the only team, but right now, you know, there's a couple of teams that are coming up, like notably AI Gaming, they're a new team. So we're like, okay, fine, we need to really find a way to survive as a business, to be sustainable. And that made us say, okay, fine, there will never always be sponsors, but we have to be able to go to the places we need to go and get things done. So it made us start thinking in terms of making proper business models that could generate revenue for us to continue flying through our dreams. So those are some of the challenges in the beginning.
Now, I don't think anybody who's ever played video games has ever used business model in the same sentence. So for me, listening, it really does show that you guys have really put a lot of thought into this, and it's not just like a passing fling or passing phase. I remember when I think I first heard about you guys and I met you for the first time. It was strange talking about the fact that you're going to put up this thing, because in as much as I've heard and I've seen, I even have a few friends who've won some of that FIFA money. They got 10,000. And the funny thing with those things is I noticed some people started to sponsor each other because they knew like the percentages to win this with a player who's pretty talented, who you could kind of consider professional, was really, really astonishing. Now, when it comes to the video game aspect, and you're trying to get your players prepared for a tournament, right? How does one qualify to enter a tournament?
So tournament qualifications vary according to the tournament organizers. Each tournament organizer has their own rules and guidelines, their own amounts of entry. So usually for all the tournaments that we've been going to so far, they just basically require you to register online and also pay a participation fee. So the participation fee is not standard, it varies from organizer to organizer.
So when you say that the entry fee, okay, not the entry fee, but like, what are some of the, rather, how have you guys been able to maneuver? Like, how many tournaments, firstly, have you guys been to?
Wow. We've been to quite a number of tournaments. I could start counting with my fingers, but it wouldn't be enough, because notably we've won about 4 sub-Saharan Africa tournaments so far, in Mortal Kombat and Injustice 2 video game. We have also taken part in various local tournaments. Recently, this year, we also signed our American player, Han Rashid. So he takes part in quite a number of tournaments in the US, in California. He plays a tournament every Wednesday in Vegas.
Wow.
So that's what I mean, but I can't count, because every week he has a tournament. And right now he's participating for us in the Mortal Kombat Pro competition. So far we've been to Evo, Combo Breaker, let's say 4 tournaments from the Pro Series. That's major tournaments aside from the locals. And Justin and Zaza have been to South Africa this year. Justin was back from Ireland. So we've been to quite a number. We have a spreadsheet. I can't go through it right now, but probably more than 20 tournaments. From the time we started, we could probably reach 50 tournaments to date, I should say.
Okay, before we end up switching, I just want to know, firstly, how did you get an American to sign for your team?
Esports knows no borders. It knows no cultural barriers. It's something that brings different people together, doing something we all love. Basically, we were looking for a player in the US for quite some time who could participate for us in the Mortal Kombat Pro competition, as well as on the other side, while our players here in Zambia also participate. We just wanted to have more presence of our brand in the pro competition. So we were talking to Han Rashid for over a year. So that's what we do with our players. We try to invest in a relationship over time and then progress to the contract and benefits, and we sign them up. So we saw talent in him, we saw passion, we saw the key priorities we look for in a player, and he was a perfect fit to represent us, and that's how we signed. And he's happy to be on the team.
Wow. So when it comes to the aspect of video games, I had a conversation with I think actually one of your team members, Kevin. So he was telling me about how in South Africa it's the gaming industry there is much more developed, and so when they have tournaments, it's easy for them to give prizes to as far as 8th or 10th place, and even a 10th place prize is almost the same, if not slightly better than the prize we'll get here. Now, one thing he said to me kind of struck, and he said, we don't have a huge video game presence because people in Zambia generally don't buy games, which then in itself kind of stops the game manufacturers from thinking Zambia is a viable spot for video games, because maybe most people crack their games for PC or they'll just borrow from a friend. If we're to increase the gaming sphere in this country, because I think game development also is another aspect of IT which isn't highly considered in this country, because maybe it doesn't deal with corporate brands a lot. But if we were to expand on that, because like video games are a $1 billion industry
growing.
That's how come, again, this is not an exaggeration, people have won $30 million just for a tournament. It's not an exaggeration whatsoever. What do you think we as a country, as a people interested in pushing, because I know that people who play video games on a serious level, but maybe they don't take it competitively. What could be some of the things we need to start thinking about doing in terms of creating a nourishing environment so that this aspect can in itself become an industry that provides jobs and isn't relying on agriculture, you know?
I think everything starts with a step, and everything starts with people putting themselves out there and kind of clearing the path, and then everyone following through. So I believe what we can do in Zambia is usually you see this ideology or this behavior where people fail to support their peers who are doing something that's new that they wish they could do or they would like to do, but they're not doing it. So that also brings us back, because you have people like Nedotaku, Lusaka Comic Con, who have been striving year in year out, trying to build our culture, keep it alive, keep the fire burning, but they need support, because eventually they are the people who are starting. They are the people who are trying to make through when things are hard for us as a niche. So the best thing we can do for a start is to support the people around us who are doing such ventures. Supporting can be sharing a post, retweeting a post. It can be, spreading the word, sharing the page. It can be buying a ticket to an event, buying some of their products. That starts, because a little goes a long way, to maintain the dream. The other thing we could do is try to, take it more seriously, because I see what happens is people mostly start something and then they just drop it off. So the best thing would be to structure ourselves properly. If we structure ourselves properly, we'll be more sustainable for a long time to come, even when we ourselves are not in those positions anymore. If we're dead or, we decide to do something else, but the structure will be there to maintain longevity. And also, that structure will also prompt professionalism, which might also interest corporates and other ventures to actually say, okay, these are not just kids who are just going to waste our money and are not going to commit to what they are going to say in the boardroom, but they'll actually execute what value they are trying to give us. So if we start maintaining that mindset and that attitude, we can go a long way. The other key vital thing is also trying to prompt the younger ones to actually invest in this. Because what we can notice is that when you go to all these events, and I assure you, even when you go to Lusaka Comic Con, you're probably going to see most of the same faces, but rarely new faces of younger ones. Because the younger ones are the ones who are going to carry it on after us. So if we can start finding ways in which we can engage and, push this dream and hand it over some way to the younger generation behind us, I think that would actually push us further. So it may be something to look into. For us as Gematrix, it's something that's at the heart of us, because we know our star players will not be with us for a long time. And we see this in traditional sports, for example, with Barcelona, and you can see the futsal club there. They've invested in a junior club where kids can play, a 7-year-old, 8-year-old. They recently formed a team that went to participate for the Europa as Zambia, but they're just kids who are below 10 years old. Those are the key to the future. It's something that traditional sports values, and it's something that we should also start valuing. So as we come up next year, we'll have an announcement around that. We're trying to also engage and create a product where we can go into schools and have an active club where we can train the future of esports. Make them think the way they're supposed to think. How do you email? What's a contract? At what age do my parents have to be engaged in this? We explain to the parents the type of games, how interesting they are, the values these games give your children. Ever since our players began, they've learned teamwork. They've learned how to be responsible, how to respect each other. They don't go to tournaments and just throw things. They have poise and they are focused. So it creates that type of those type of life skills and values in people, and we want to also grow our generation that way.
That's really interesting that you mentioned that, because I was about to ask you, and I think you can still touch on this, because I'm sure there's some parents listening and they're thinking to themselves, oh my goodness, having my child play video games competitively on a serious level, is that even such a good idea? Won't they just become spoiled, lazy kids? Because I'm sure the narrative that we usually see is kids just play games, they don't even clean their rooms. That's the terrible narrative we've been exposed to for so long. But here you are talking about teaching them rules of engagement, teaching them to be calm, disciplined, respectful. What else do you think being attached to an organization like Gematrix, if you were to open up a video game academy, since we'll use the example of conventional sports, right? What do you think are some of the things that, aside from becoming very good at video games, are things that you're hoping to instill in their kids?
Things that we're hoping to instill are life skills. So we also want our players, because basically when players come to us, they come to us with a raw brand. And it's our job to try and help them build a brand in themselves, So we try to, what we would say we want to do is to teach skills like team building. How do you bring yourself into a team? What do you contribute to a team? How do you work with other people? Because in esports, you work with people from different cultures. Okay, we have a player from the US and we have Zambian players. How do they work together? There's all those things impacting different cultures, different mindsets, different lives. So we teach those skills of how you can actually integrate with other people. The other skills we teach are focus and commitment. how do you commit to being better? How do you commit to being better at something? It's the same thing we do when we go to school. We commit to being better and improving on our skills. That's one thing we teach them that they can also pass on into their school. Because even with our training, we have deadlines. We have ways in which you have to train and things you need to understand. So those things are also skills that they can learn. They can also learn timeliness. You have to be on time for a tournament, so you're disqualified. You have to know that, okay, you can't start training for a tournament this week when it's next week and it's a major tournament. You have to start 3 months before, just like an exam. So it also teaches them punctuality. So there are a lot of things that they would learn while they're in a team that would pass on back to life in school. So, we also teach them, when they came to us, they also started using emails. Most of the time people would like to communicate via WhatsApp, but when you start going to the professional world, you start finding out that everyone communicates via email. So it's something that we also started instilling in them. So, there are all those skills and little nitty-gritty things that they would learn along the way. And with games, it's not just, I'm playing a game. You actually have to study the game. It's like chess. You don't know what would happen. You're playing someone who you've never met before, who's probably trained more than you, and you have to find a way to make it work. So you have to think on your toes. So it makes you focus. It makes you be on your toes at all times. So there's so many skills that I can say can correlate in real life and school, and they can pass on into the whole life of a child or a player, basically.
I didn't expect you to have a whole list, to be honest.
Sorry.
But I like it because, I think firstly it breaks down the stereotype of what's commonly associated with games. Because people just think you just play games, chapwa. But you've broken it down. And the thing I think that makes it so easy for these skills to be instilled through the medium of video games is, number one, they like video games.
And they're having fun.
So they're going to want to follow all the steps to allow them to continue to play. And naturally, they're going to keep learning how, firstly, like you said, I think teamwork is really important. And sometimes we underlook it. But when you enter the world, and it's not just you alone. You have a team you have to work with. You have to coordinate. You have to communicate properly. And those really are vital skills. Gematrix Academy, here we come. I like it. There's a young lady in this country who was making a game. I can't remember her name, but I do remember she was crowdfunding. Now, seeing as it seems it's becoming a norm, bit by bit, hopefully, that more people in this country also are starting to make their own games. How do you think that's going to impact us as a culture? Because most of our games come from outside the country. They came from America. Like everybody else is making games at the moment. Even South Africa on a good basis, but we're yet to really fully commit ourselves to that passion. How do you think the creation of our own games with our own narratives, our own stories, is going to help affect and instill just a sense of belonging and a sense of pride also, I think, to our gaming industry, but also to just society as a whole?
I think it's something that we need to happen, and it's something that would really pave the way for the future. Potentially jobs of the future, opportunities for our youths who also, venture into creating their own games to actually get opportunities to work with other developers and publishers on bigger projects and integrate their ideas from a Zambian narrative or African perspective into our games that we love. This could be like you just play a game and randomly find an African character named Mumba or something, But it's something that would really impact us, because you never know. We don't know the future. Like, we never knew there would be a Kenneth Kaunda who's, help us and deliver us into independence. So we never know the future. We could, at the very least, support the startups, or should I say the ventures that are actually doing these things, we're actually creating a platform for people to actually start expressing themselves. You know, you have Orongo Game Lab, you have Agora Code Community, you have what's his name? There's this guy, Muava Credos Mugala. He's creating a game called Lumpa, Project Lumpa. You know, it talks about the massacre, the fiction around the massacre at some church in history, in Zambian history.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
So it's rich in history and culture. I didn't know about that story till I heard about his game, and he's currently, you know, working on it. He actually won an award, and he went to London, I believe, to actually get more training for the game. And he came back to Zambia. He's a really great guy. So, you know, supporting his game, learning from his journey, learning from his story. You know, you can meet him at LSCon, Saka Comic Con or something, you know, engage with him and try and integrate yourself in the community of creatives doing such things. It might click. You might actually find yourself working on a project with one of these guys. And that could be something that could kickstart the future as we go along. But basically, supporting each other and working together is a key to us actually growing something.
I love the fact that you brought that example, because before you said that, I was thinking to myself, you know, there's also that Mushaga story, which also came out recently in cinemas as a movie. Now, imagine it's a game and you get to experience those things by yourself. Because, you know, like when you watch a movie, the character in the movie has already set their mind on what they're going to do, so they're just acting it out. But imagine you're the person who gets to decide left or right. Are we helping this old lady on the street or not? And how then does that affect the character's growth? Because it just reminds me of games like God of War, for instance, where your decision now starts to influence your character and your character grows from there. I think it would provide, as you rightly put it, different insight, and then it would allow people to get this never before experience and a look behind the curtain into a culture, you know, your culture, Zambia. And imagine you ship it outside, then the rest of the world gets to view the kinds of stories you've had to go through and endure as a country.
Yeah.
Which I think is a great game, because it's so interactive and it forces you to pay attention to what's going on in the game. Firstly, I'm excited. Like I'm hoping to play Lumpa when it comes out. Yeah, because I think there's something rich about video games, about games in general, which I think we kind of don't allow ourselves to think about. Even the games we used to play when we were young had this richness in quality, had this richness in using what you have just to excite your mind and allow your imagination to wander, which somewhere along the way, I guess, it kind of dies, you know?
Yeah, life.
Yeah. I was thinking it, I just didn't want to say it, you know? But yeah, life, society, all these happenstances are placed on you, and then you stop to envision this world that, you know, possibly is yours. Now, with the aspect of video games, I'm really curious, like, your ultimate vision. I know it's putting you in an awkward spot, but like, when you see yourselves in 30 years...
That's so far, man.
I know, I'm putting you on the spot here, because like, when you see yourselves in 30 years...
If I'm still alive, yes.
Definitely. With the amount of technology coming through, you're definitely going to be alive.
Mm-hmm.
What would you guys hope to be able to have achieved, so that you can look back and say, it's been a 30-year journey, but wow, look at what we made?
When we were starting, funny thing is, the big idea was to somehow, you know, be in South Africa, because when we were starting, South Africa was really booming. You know, you had the Arena, you had, you know, SCGL, you had Metal State, you had these other organizations making so many great tournaments supported by Vodacom, you know, all these cool things. So our idea was like, oh my God, we have to be big enough to actually go to SA and try and win a tournament, you know. And then that was literally December. February, we had our first tournament invitation. We go to Kenya and we win a Pan-African tournament. And then we're like, wait, we achieved it just like that. Now what next? You know? And then after that one, I thought, no, let's just keep going. Then another tournament comes. We win Sub-Saharan tournament. Then you're like, wait, okay. Then you keep going. You win another one. Then you win another one. Then you're like, wait. So this whole time, we thought that our main goal was to actually just win an African tournament. And then, so it keeps growing, you know, when you reach your goal. And then you're like, it wasn't what I wanted. But it was what I wanted. And keeps you going, hungering for more achievements, more growth. My vision in the future is to have various opportunities for young creatives to actually take money home, you know, for food, to actually, you know, buy their mom a car, you know, and actually pay their rent and say, I'm a content creator who streams gaming online on Twitch and YouTube, and I'm from Zambia. Or I'm a professional Zambian player signed to Gematrix, and yeah, this is what I do for a living. To me, that's what I envision. The freedom for a player to actually feel like it's a real career, to actually enjoy life, because gaming, it takes us away from so many negativity, so many things that engulf us in our lives, and it gives us that freedom, that openness in our minds, just like art does. So to me, having achieved something like that, where I actually helped someone achieve their passion and stability in life from what they love, would be the ultimate greatness. I'll just feel great about that, you know. Also help my mom, of course, but you know, just that freedom is what I'd really love to achieve. I would love to see, right now the Olympics in Japan just announced eSports to take place with games such as Rocket League and Street Fighter. I want to take Zambian players to the Olympics. I want to see us actually being in the Zambian budget officially as electronic sports players, going to represent our country and our region, Africa, in the Olympics, going to represent our country and our region in various tournaments around the world, and empowering ourselves, giving hope to our youth to say, okay, fine, maybe academics are not for me, but I've been hell good at video games since I was 6 years old, and I can make a career and take care of my family. So it's about giving that option to people. Entrepreneurship, business, whatever I want to call it, is about giving ourselves reasonable, sustainable options to live life well. So that's ultimately our vision.
Wow. You know, this can't be understated, okay? Firstly, it's a great initiative. I really feel like we need more options, because I always say this, and maybe sometimes people don't take me seriously, but like this internet thing really changed a lot for us. It allowed the options to be more varied as to what you can and can't do, because now it's given us opportunities where literally you can now say, in this country we have a video game team going on, and a few years ago that wouldn't have been very possible, because we didn't know that such things are happening, because we're very closed, and the media tells you what the media has to tell you. It won't tell you about video games. Like, they're not very concerned. Now you talked about Twitch. Just real quick, just so that we understand, what exactly is Twitch?
So Twitch is more like the YouTube for gaming. So it's a streaming platform where players or content creators can actually create streaming content through video games and post it on their Twitch and create viewership in their channels there. So it's very much like YouTube in simpler terms, but for gamers, specifically for gamers. YouTube has YouTube Gaming that facilitates a platform for gamers to stream their content. So does Facebook. Facebook has Facebook Gaming, so they actually sign up players and work with players to actually stream content particularly for that platform. So Twitch is like the mother, I should say. It's like the first pioneer of actually content for streamers. We've also got Mixer. It's by Microsoft. And we've also got there's this product that was announced, Stadia. I didn't really excite me, so I don't want to say much about it. But so you've got Mixer, you've got Twitch, you've got YouTube, you've got Facebook Gaming. These are platforms that players and gamers can create streaming from.
So we have that many platforms. When it comes to video games, I think people only know mostly of Xbox, PlayStation. A few people will tell you they know Nintendo also. Do we have any more, or are these the three main players in the video game world?
Do you mean for competitive gaming or casual?
I think for all kinds of gaming.
So right now the big sharks are Nintendo. You've got the Nintendo Switch, Nintendo Switch Lite. You've got the Xbox One, Xbox 360. You've got PlayStation 4, of course, and you've got PC gaming. Now, with PC gaming, it's varied. Each computer company has their own product line of machines that are specifically for video games. So you've got, say for example, you could have Lenovo. They would have their own gaming computer. You've got Acer. They would have their own gaming computer, and they'll call it, say, I'm assuming it's called Predator, the gaming computer for Acer. And then you've got Dell. They've got Alienware. This is the Alienware laptops that you see around. Those are specifically for gaming. So each company always creates a product line of video game specific machines. So those are the main platforms for gaming.
Firstly, that shows you like how big of an industry video games is, that PC manufacturers also need to create their own specific flagship line for video games. Now, have you guys started, are you constantly recruiting, or do you have points where you start to recruit and then you cool off?
Yeah, so for now, we're not recruiting any players. We are okay with the roster we have. But eventually, when we are ready and open to recruit new talent, we're going to make an official announcement on our media platforms and do proper advertising around it. We also give the relevant qualifications that we look for. But just to hint people, basically what we look for is a real resume, like a real CV. Minimum qualification for our players standard is 18 years old. We do not sign contracts with players below 18. We also need them to have at least a grade 12 certificate. This is just for formality, so that we know that you speak English properly and that you went to school and that you just have basic education. You know, you don't have to have a degree, but just basic education. So just like any job, you also have to also submit those things. So those are part of the things we require. But most and foremost, we also require some form of competitive experience, because gaming casually and gaming competitive are two different things. There's so much involved in competitiveness. It's just hectic. So we need to know, do you have at least the minimal experience to actually accept this challenge? So we usually refer people who ask us in our DMs to say, okay, fine, there are these local tournaments, we hope to see you there. And we usually keep an eye out to say who's actually going to the tournaments. We have a list of people who ask us, and we check that if we go to tournaments and we ask around, is this player here? Do you know this guy? We always try to be engaged in that way, because we need to have people who actually put themselves out there to actually be part of us. So
I'm really just out here laughing, because who would have thought that if you do not have your grade 12 certificate, you might just not make the cut,
Maybe we can consider grade 9, but for now.
Okay, see, so if you're listening and you just have your grade 9 certificate but you're good,
and you're 18,
you might be lucky, and you're 18, especially that one, Now, the aspect for being 18, is this is this so that they at least can make their own decisions and you don't always have to start going with the parents and watching over them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's a small factor because, you know, African culture and so forth. I once was brought aware of an experience where a player was not allowed to go to a tournament in another country because the father felt, you know, it was not safe, you know, such and so much. So there's a bit of, okay, but and then you find that player is committed to a contract. So, you know, there's so there's so much involved. So I like, okay, fine, at least be 18. Do you come from a household where you can actually make your own decisions? If need be, we can also intervene with the parents to say, no, we're actually personally taking care of this person and everything, but we also need that security for our minds to be free as well. The other thing is, legally, we advise not to sign players below 18. So the lawyers know their thing. Yeah. I'm not going to argue with that, so we take it.
Okay, I really love that. Now, as we're kind of getting to the end of the show, first things first, we just need to know, where can people reach you? Like, just all your social, firstly as Gematrix, then also as Cholwe, if you're so inclined.
Okay. So you can reach Gematrix through our Facebook. It's Team Gematrix. Twitter, Team Gematrix. Instagram, Team Gematrix. We also have a Twitch channel, Team Gematrix. We also have a YouTube channel, Team Gematrix. So it's basically at Team Gematrix for all platforms. Very soon we'll be launching our website, so we'll have a lot of content there to be easier for people to actually shoot their questions, you know, and view our content in one place. So we're working on that. For me personally, you can reach me on Twitter. I love Twitter. Twitter is like the official eSports platform. So yeah, it's easy to get through to pro players, people in the industry you want to actually put into your network. Twitter is the place for esports. Most players and communities don't engage on Facebook. It's either Discord or Twitter. So Ellen_Cho on Discord. Ellen at Cholwe Shabukali on Twitter. Cholwe Shabukali on Instagram. Cholwe Shabukali on Facebook. And my PSN, my PlayStation Network username is Ellen_Cho. That's my gamer tag. So you can reach me there to catch some games or something. Feel free to send me an invite.
Okay. Now, I'm really, really excited, especially because last month I was able to check Facebook. Then I saw Mr. 5000 in SA, and I was able to just also watch the MK, the Mortal Kombat game that he won. He won 15,000 rand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Amongst other things.
I won't even ask because, like, officially they just said he won 15,000 rand. So, like, I'm sure it's a pretty good a good package to come through. At the end of this, I think the most important thing I would just really like to go back to is just the fact that we have reached an age where, aside from teaching your child all the charity begin at home values that have to be inculcated, we need to start allowing ourselves the freedom to be creative and do what our heart desires. Because, like, now, imagine video games, people are winning as much as $30 million, right? So it just simply means the opportunity to make a living for yourself doing what you love is definitely there. And hopefully that's one of the reasons why you guys decided to start Gematrix. And just in case, because I know you're giving out your handles, for those who want to know the spelling, Gematrix is Gematrix.
Yes, so it's just literally GE then Matrix.
Oh, okay.
So to make it easier for yourself.
Okay, yeah. In my head, I was just saying gem, like, you know, the stone, and then...
I know, right? That was the ideology behind the name. So Gem means a precious stone. So we believe our players are precious to us and precious to our community. And matrix also means bringing things together. So we believe in bringing our talent, and our precious talent and our resources together. So that's Gematrix.
And on that profound note, I'm going to conclude. Thank you so much for Cholwe for coming through to Sivaka right here. I mean, I'm very excited. I always get excited when we talk about this. Like, when you talk about the things that everybody looks at and says, that seems far-fetched and impossible, that's when the excitement really builds in, because people are still out here wanting to prove the stereotype wrong and saying, we're going to follow our own path. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. This has been Sivaka right here on DC Talk Radio 90.9 FM, where your issue is our concern. Do stay tuned for more programming. Thank you. Until next week, same time, same place. This has been Shasho on Sivaka. Do stay tuned. Thank you.